so tricky to spot some of these little tiny changes of numbering, of phrasing, these are hard mistakes to catch. So my, you know, uh, sort of realization and with Clearbrief was that we actually need AI to help us. We need machines to help us spot these really difficult, subtle mistakes that other machines have inserted into the document. And it is very hard for human eyes especially when you've been staring at this draft for days and weeks to catch some of these kinds of mistakes.
Welcome up to Power Up Your Practice. I'm your host, Ruby Powers, law firm owner and law practice management consultant. Each week, we learn from inspiring legal minds and share practical tips so that you can work smarter, serve your clients better, and grow your firm. After all, there's no need to reinvent the wheel. Let's power up together. Welcome back, everyone. This is Ruby Powers with Power Up Your Practice, and I'm excited to have Jacqueline Schafer from Clearbrief. AI. She is the Legalweek 2025 Innovator of the Year, founder and CEO at Clearbrief.ai, the 2025 finalist Best Use of AI in Litigation, the 2023 Litigation Product of the Year, and the 2022 New Law Company of the Year from Legalweek. And I believe that we must have met through ABA Tech Show or something in the last handful of years. And so welcome to the show. Great to have you.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me.
And I think one of your other claims to fame was that did you sing your your pitch for the startup alley at ABA Tech Show a few years ago?
Yes, I probably get, recognized for that more than anything else I've ever done. I mean, look, I was a wedding singer in college, and my other sort of like fun fact is my a cappella group in college. John Legend was in the group, and so I've sung with him multiple times, that sort of thing. So I've always had music as a big part of my life, and so even as a legal tech founder, I try to like bring karaoke into the business however I can.
That is so awesome. Like, I don't know. I think we're just sort of like awesome to use a different skill, a hobby, be great at that, be more a little artistic. We're just, I don't know. I think sometimes we get sort of boring being in law. No offense to us lawyers, but anyway. So no, I love that. I love that. And thank you for keeping it real and interesting on that front. So one thing, so we're going to talk about like legal writing and research and the accuracy. And there's just been like so much talk in that space. Like everyone hears about the hallucinations and the people who got in trouble for that. So this is like still an issue. Like I listened to a journalist on the Legal Tech Week, and they're like, we're still having to have this conversation. Like, I wish we didn't have to have this conversation. I hear them like so annoyed about having that. But then I also think about, this is something that is very time consuming. So like, listeners are like even today I was talking to a senior associate, and she was working this weekend on a brief, and it's just like, this is the stuff that we can't easily delegate to a lot of other team members, and the lawyer really has to be involved, especially like signing off on the accuracy and everything like that. So this is a huge pain point. So I think when we dive in and sort of tell sort of what you're seeing in this space, since you're like really living in this space and been in it for a while, and maybe just some best practices and how you think some of our listeners can sort of like overcome, and sort of what are sort of the players in the field of what's happening.
Absolutely. So just to establish my street cred on this particular topic, probably there's no one else who's obsessed over citation accuracy more than I have, and our company has. So I started Clearbrief in 2020, and from day one, because after a decade of litigation practice, and I started in big law, I was in government, I was in-house, where I was always working on very tight deadlines to get complex briefs and motions filed. So when I started the company, I thought, okay, we're going to use AI. But at that time, AI means classic natural language processing, machine learning, not generative AI. We're going to use classic AI, is what I call it, to figure out which strings of text in a Word doc are citations and display that source. And we're going to also do it for factual evidence and not just case law. And in being able to make that citation clickable and instantly visible, we can also flag potential mistakes. So I've been, focused on this for 5 years, doing nothing but, how can we improve that process of checking over a brief to ensure accuracy before it's filed? And yeah, I mean, what we're seeing now is with generative AI, there are, basic issues with the way that generative AI models are trained that are causing it to take guesses, essentially. That's why we get hallucinations, is that the models, when they're trained and built, the creators of those models reward them for sort of like when we were taking the SATs back in the day and they were like, don't leave it blank if you don't know the answer. You might as well just guess. But that's also how the models get rewarded for guessing on certain answers. And so as a
Oh.
result, they are trained for that. And then again, by the way, when the models get evaluated in the field by third parties, they also evaluate accuracy by, giving higher scores to models that guess. So until we fix those things, we will still have hallucinations in these models. We will still have basically generative AI models that are sort of making up things if when they don't have enough information to give us a real answer. So this is particularly an issue with legal research. Um, First of all, because look, you creating an AI tool that can come up with accurate legal research and it understands which jurisdictions it can pull from and the nuances of how these facts apply and those, like that's very, very hard for humans, really smart humans to do. It's also it turns out, very hard for generative AI to do. So that particular application of generative AI continues to have issues with even with the best tools that are on the market from the biggest, legal tech companies are still having, hallucinations. Now, how do I know that? Because I read all these cases. It's part of, my job to kind of read every single hallucinations case that comes out and look at and try to figure out why did this happen? What went wrong with this, situation? And they will say, I used, this tool and I thought I used this, big brand name legal research tool and I thought that was okay and it
Mhm.
still hallucinated and we didn't catch it, sort of thing. So I've sort of realized that it's not just a technology problem that's causing these cases over and over, it's an operations problem.
Hmm. Why do you well, before you answer why you think it's operation problem, but I think what I've realized is I think I heard Jack Noon say something in an interview with Lawyerist about how we just were sort of trained to believe what the computer said and we haven't really this whole like we have to question it. I mean, we question like some of fake news type of stuff, that type of thing. And we know that not the and everything on the internet is true, but it's just I think like if we ask a question like on a Google search or something, we were sort of start getting to the point where like we believed what it said was supposed to be valid. Like why would it lie to us? Like what, over consistency over time, it was like it was true. So then now we're in this new space where the rules changed, where we ask this question to the smart thing and it might give us a wrong answer. We're like, oh no, well, when can I trust you and when can I not trust you? And then it just really makes it really confusing. And then on top of all of that, like I was just realizing like there's still lawyers who aren't using AI like at all, and they're just like putting their head in the sand, like, I don't know where to start, and so anyway, that there's a lot going on. This episode is sponsored by Candle AI, the legal email assistant that helps legal teams spend less time on client emails. You heard me right, spending less time on emails. Candle AI works with both Gmail and Outlook, so you don't have to learn a new tool. And then it connects with popular case management systems like Clio, Filevine, INSSoom, and more to come. It instantly shows you your case and the client details the moment you open a client email and right inside your inbox. Then that means less context switching and time spent jumping to different tabs to figure out what you need to respond. Candle can also draft context-aware responses to client emails and makes it easy to create, edit, and manage your email templates. If you want to save time and take back control of your inbox, check out Candle AI. I highly suggest it. Are you feeling overwhelmed by all the different things you have to do to run a law firm? Well, you're not alone. So many law firm owners are in the same boat. That's where Staffy steps in. More than 90 firms, just like yours, are leaning on their bilingual virtual staff for legal, administrative, marketing, and client facing work, plus their full HR support. I currently have 11 team members with Staffy across my own firm and Power Strategy Group, and it's been a total game changer. Schedule a free initial consultation at staffy.cc, that's STAFI.cc, and use the code RUBY, RUBY, for $500 off. And so abrupt transition to my rapid questions of what would you say is your favorite board game?
Oh, yes. So I was just playing this one with my family this week. It's Balderdash, which I don't know if you know that one, but I do feel like it is very interesting if you're someone who deals with words for a living.
Uh,
Essentially, the way we played in my family, because we have like some younger kids, we just focus on the one category, which has a word that is a very obscure real word that like no one has ever heard of this word, and you read it out loud, and everybody has to write down a definition
oh
for
yeah.
definition for what this
Okay.
could mean. And then whoever, gets the most people to pick their fake definition gets points. And I think it's a really interesting first of all, I've learned a lot about, word etymology and just from sort of trying to figure out what this word could possibly mean that would sound credible. And then it also kind of forces you to think about what do the other people, my family think are, what do you have to kind of get into their headspace and really empathize with them and think about what would they understand and think about when it comes to this definition. So I do think it's a good life skill to have to like really empathize with other people and try to put yourself in their shoes. So that's maybe one of the subtle life skills it's teaching you.
Oh, I love that. I love etymology too. And okay, I've heard of it a long time ago, but I haven't played it in forever. So maybe I'll have to get that one.
A good one.
Thank you. It's also selfishly asking people, sort of crowdsourcing what's the good game to play, because we play a lot of games at my household. What would you say is your superpower?
So maybe relatedly, I think my superpower is actually having deep empathy for other people's what they're dealing with, their situations. Like I do feel like that is what helps me build a better product. That's what helps me make sure that we're satisfying our customers and seeing ahead of like okay, what product features are going to have the most impact for this group, given what they do every day. So I think that yeah, that empathy it comes through when I write an email, I'm always thinking about what does the other person care about? What is their day like? And just most people don't do that, and so you really tend to stand out more when you show that you've thought about their situation.
I love that. That's a really good point, and it helps be communicate better. I think when you're thinking from the world from their perspective, uh, and which is really relevant too from helping prepare these briefs. What would you say is a habit that contributes to your success?
A habit. Let's see, I would say practicing courage. Practicing courage in a lot of situations in my daily life. And maybe I notice this a lot too, because I live in Seattle, which is known for kind of being very, people are really conflict averse here. It's not like New York where you, if you bump into someone, you're like, "Eh, what'd you do? Like, what? Like in Seattle, you just like not even acknowledge that you bumped into them and like so I think I just think a lot about, having courage in situations where there's been a misunderstanding and, or, something and speaking up and training myself to solve, conflict. I think
Mhm.
that's really, contributed to my, my success and yeah, navigating, just any kind of difficult situation is, not being afraid to speak up and be honest. Even when, you're in polite company or just dealing with people you don't
No,
know well.
that's so true. It's also part of like being a business owner or a lawyer. You have to deal with some uncomfortable situations, and usually the sooner you deal with it, the better things end up, as opposed
100%.
to avoiding it, right? What would be a favorite book or podcast you would recommend to our listeners?
Oh, so I would say I would actually recommend a newsletter.
Oh,
Um, yeah, because I tend to, read fewer books these days because I'm reading all day and sort of analyzing things all day. Um, and I prefer to listen to music instead of podcasts. So anyway, I love newsletters though, and that's actually a huge tip I think in terms of what's helped me also understand, how to position my business, where the industry is headed. So one I'd really recommend is called Lenny's newsletter,
hmm.
and I think it has value even if, you're not running a tech company, and it's a lot of interviews with different leaders of successful companies. And I just think it's excellent newsletter, but I read tons of newsletters all the time, and I don't just skim them. I read them and think about them, and I think that's, again, instead of reading books, that's what I do
Yeah.
to kind of assimilate a lot of different ideas and viewpoints, and kind of, you know that, and think about them and process them.
Awesome. Well, I'll take a look at that. I found Lenny with a Y. I found he has a
Mhm.
Substack. Substack,
Yes.
or they have a Substack. Well, Jacqueline, I'm great. I'm grateful for this opportunity to have more of like a one-on-one conversation. I've always like seen you out and about at the different legal tech conferences, admired you, and just really an opportunity to, just sort of talk about this issue, which is so critical and so important. And sometimes it's a lot of, I think sometimes lawyers, this isn't their favorite space, but they still have to do it. I don't know, people, especially when you're a small mid-size, you're still working in this area, and you can't maybe find someone else to delegate it to, or it's just a necessary part of practice. And unless this is your jam and you really love it, but if it is, that's great, but you still need to be getting up to speed with all the different tech changes that are happening. And I think your point about the operational standpoint and how to work with your team, and just sort of like having given us some insight about having studied some of the prior hallucinations and sanctions helps gives us some perspective that many of us might be just sort of like not really getting deeper into what's happened in the past. And so this was all very helpful. Thanks for joining us today.
Thank you so much for having me, and for creating this podcast to really, get the word out about different ideas and different, potential approaches to the problems that we all have as, business owners. So this is amazing. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Well, my pleasure. And so how can people find you? I know you're on LinkedIn, or what's a good way to find you and keep the conversation going after the podcast?
Yeah, definitely, look me up on LinkedIn, Jacqueline Schaefer, Schafer, and that's probably the main place where I'm posting very frequently, and I share a lot of different updates on AI models and sort of what I'm seeing about how they apply to legal. So, or you can always email me as well. You can just email hello@clearbrief.ai, and it will definitely get to me. So, thank you so much.
Yeah, no, awesome. Well, thanks so much for being on. I hope to see you at the next conference of ABA Tech Show, something in the future. And thanks everybody for listening. We had a really great discussion, lots to think about, and improving our legal writing and research and what's going on today. So you can find us on School, the Power Hub, and the book Power Up Your Practice on Amazon. And we'll continue this conversation. Thanks so much. We'll see you next time. Thank you for tuning in to Power Up Your Practice. I'm Ruby Powers, and it's been a pleasure sharing this time with you. We love your reviews. So if you enjoyed today's episode, please leave us one and share this podcast